Well, the Diamondbacks just won one of the craziest game of the year, so why not do a emergency podcast about it? Stick around, 30 seconds. We're going to cover this game and all the ups and downs along with it right now. Let's go. Welcome into an emergency podcast of the PHNX T-Backs podcast, brought to you right here by our friends at Bet365. Go download the Bet365 app right now. Use our code of PHNX365. When you sign up, choose your offer, and of course, find out why it is never ordinary at Bet365. And this is, of course, the most extraordinary game of the entire Arizona Diamondbacks season. Diamondbacks win this one. Let that music play the whole episode with the way this game went. Turn it back up, Jake. This is what we're doing, Jesse. Anyway, craziest game of the year. Diamondbacks win in extra innings and a walk-off by a score of 11-10. A game they very much needed to win, not only to avoid being swept by the Brewers, but to keep pace in this insane wild card race that they are involved in. Of course, my name is Derek Montia, occasionally known as your mayor of PHNX. This man next to me is your thunderstick, the one and only Jesse Friedman. And Jesse, what a game we just witnessed.
I don't know where to start with this one, Derek.
Let's start with, we're not supposed to be doing a show right now. Let's start with that. That's wild enough to make us get up off the couch to do this show right now.
Yeah, we've had a few of those this year, right? The Diamondbacks have had their share of crazy games and crazy wins. I mean, this team, I think the biggest thing that stands out from today is that this team has a lot of fight in them, right? And you see it. We've seen it a number of times with some pretty crazy comebacks. Obviously, this game was a little different in that, I mean, if the Diamondbacks had lost this game, they would have blown a 5-run lead, right? So this game was very much trending to be the Brewers doing to the Diamondbacks what the Diamondbacks have done to a lot of other teams this season. But the Diamondbacks found a way to fight back, as we've seen so many times throughout this season. Even yesterday, Derek, I know that there were very few positives. It was hard to take many positives away from that Saturday game that they lost by 7 runs. But the fact that they took a 13-0 game and scored 8 unanswered runs, and you know, for a second there, you wondered if the Brewers were going to have to use Devin Williams in that game just because the Diamondbacks had closed half to 5 runs. And then a game today where I certainly would have expected the Brewers to use Devin Williams. They did not, which we'll talk about that more here in a moment. But yeah, the biggest thing that just stands out to me is there's a lot of fight in this Diamondbacks team, and they've not had everything go their way lately, especially in this series. There were a lot of negatives in this series, frankly, that we'll maybe get into a little bit later, but finding a way to win is really all that matters at this stage in the season. And they managed to do that.
And I mean, this game, Jesse, the ups and downs, the win probability chart was probably one of the wildest things that you can imagine, because just, I mean, some of the decisions, by the way, this being one of the craziest games of the year, and Torey Lovullo missed it because Torey Lovullo was not managing the Arizona Diamondbacks today. He was present as a speaker with giving the eulogy at Billy Bean's funeral, and so he was not present. Jeff Bannister was at the helm today. Some questionable decisions, you could say, but ultimately the end result is that the Diamondbacks got the job done. There were some things there late, though, in this game, Jesse, where it felt like they were trying their best to maybe give it away. I mean, there were some definitely, especially when you are doing anything to pitch to Jackson Chourio. When you are pitching to Jackson Chourio as your option, and you decided to walk someone else after what he has done to the Diamondbacks lately in this series and in Major League Baseball lately, that's not a great decision.
No, it's not. And honestly, Derek, I think and generally, I'm generally pretty balanced on these kinds of things and sort of see both sides of the picture or whatnot. When Torey makes a decision that is somewhat
Yeah.
controversial, I have no answer for what Jeff Bannister did in the top of the 10th inning. So the situation, for those who don't know, although I'm sure basically everyone does, the Diamondbacks get the first 2 outs of the top of the 10th inning. Justin Martinez goes out there for a second inning. Things are getting really thin in the bullpen at this stage of the game. So you get the first 2 outs. You're feeling pretty darn good at that point. Joey Ortiz is still on second base with 2 outs. And then at that point, I don't know where to start on this one. Jeff Bannister, Derek, decides to intentionally walk Bryce Terang, who, to be fair, he did have a very good series. I think he had 5 hits altogether, a couple of stolen bases, couple of walks. He was all over the place in the series, and he does bat left-handed. So Jeff Bannister makes the decision to put Bryce Terang on first base to pitch to Jackson Chourio. And yes, this is a right-on-right matchup, but this is a right-on-right matchup with a guy who has been one of the 10, 15 best players in baseball here over the last 3 months. Chourio's numbers for the season are deceiving. And not only that, but Jackson Chourio, Derek, I was just looking at this. He has pretty significant reverse splits. He has been significantly better this season against right-handed pitching than he has against left-handed pitching. His numbers against righties this year are way better than even Bryce Terang's numbers against righties. And went about as you sort of expected it would. The very first pitch that he sees, it was 103 miles an hour from Justin Martinez, but it was about as center cut as it possibly could have been. Chourio drives it from the right field line for a 2-run triple. And you feel like that in the moment, it felt like that was going to be the game. The Brewers take a 2-run lead, and obviously allowing 1 in the top of the 10th, you can deal with that. But that second run is just killer. And the fact that the Diamondbacks put on that second base runner and Jackson Chourio comes through with the hit. I mean, it couldn't have been a worse outcome in the moment. And it's pretty predictable.
Yeah. And not only was it a worse outcome, it really did feel like, even with all the ups and downs, the Diamondbacks probably had run out of gas as far as comebacks were concerned, as far as being able to overcome, that kind of mistake. And instead, we have Adrian Del Castillo with an RBI single in the bottom of the 10th. We have Christian Walker get a hit by a pitch and walk in a run. And then we have Gino Suarez get a very, very long RBI walk-off single. They had the bases loaded, Jesse. They did the thing. I mean, we've talked about the fact that at times you feel like this team is out of it. There were times in this game where they were out of it, and you just kind of believe, based on what we saw, this isn't going to help. This is just going to make me more delusional. This is just going to make me feel like the Diamondbacks can never lose a game or ever out of a game, because this one felt like every time they did something in it to come back, the Brewers had an answer. And obviously that's kind of been the case in this series. This was a critical win. And I know that there are no must wins, but there are must wins at this point of the season. And with the way this series had gone, after losing the first game 2-1, and then losing yesterday's game in just this absolutely disastrous 15-8 loss, they really needed, I feel like, just for team morale, just to not let this thing all of a sudden come to a screeching halt. They needed to win this game, and they figured out a way to pull it out there in the 10th inning.
They did. And I said sort of what I thought about the decision that Jeff Bannister made in the top of the 10th. And I'll also say some words about what Pat Murphy did in the bottom.
Let's talk about it. Let's talk. Where is Devin Williams alive? Piece of Yoshi with the super chat. Thank you so much. Piece of Yoshi wants to know, is Devin Williams real? The streets are saying no, Jesse. The streets are in fact saying no, because where was Devin Williams in such a crucial spot for the Brewers there?
Yeah, I mean, maybe there's something that going on there that we didn't hear about. Maybe there's some sort of an injury or something, but I don't think so, because we saw Williams warm up, I think, multiple times throughout the course of this game. And I could maybe understand sticking with Koenig for Adrian Del Castillo. You get a left-on-left matchup.
Right.
I still probably wouldn't have done that myself. You got a 2-run lead at that point in the bottom of the 10th, a chance to close out the game. Just go to your closer. But I could maybe understand that part of it. Go with the left-on-left matchup and then bring in Devin Williams after that, I guess. But he didn't. Pat Murphy just let Koenig continue to pitch. And as you said earlier, the Koenig never got an out in the bottom of the 10th inning, right? And it wasn't just like a couple of batters and the D-backs won this game. It was Del Castillo singles. It was Ketel Marte singles. It was Corbin Carroll singles. It was Christian Walker hit by pitch. To leave Koenig in for all of those guys and allow Devin Williams, who might be the best closer in all of baseball, to just wait out there in the bullpen, it was mind-numbing. And the Diamondbacks took advantage of it.
I know that at times, right? Like it's about, saving your bullpen for other games. We've seen Torey make some questionable decisions like that, but this one's just weird. That's your closer, right? And like one of the, if not arguably the best in the game right now. So I don't really know. But I do agree with Piece of Yoshi. Walker's sly smile after he got hit. That was one of my favorite moments of the game. Just confidently knowing that the Diamondbacks had taken the lead because he got hit in the arm and that it was no big deal. That one was pretty great. But this game was wild. And of course, you know what we do around here. We got to give our King Snake to somebody. A couple of good candidates, but we're giving it to Gino. Gino has the game winner, 2 for 5, 3 RBI today, 1 walk-off hit. And Gino just continues to do it for this team. Gino is the consistent guy now. Gino is like the hero. And like, it's not to say we're not getting contributions from tons of other players offensively on this team. This one was an 11-10 victory, right? So you had pretty much every single member of the Diamondbacks, starting lineup aside from Jose Herrera got a hit today. So these guys all contributed. It was just, this is kind of the guy that's been doing it for the Diamondbacks, Jesse.
I think our graphic says Brandon Pfaadt.
Way to go, Brandon Pfaadt.
Yeah, Brandon Pfaadt came up big when he was not pitching. Gino had a good game. I mean, that's sort of been par for the course, right, lately for him. He very nearly had a walk-off grand slam, which maybe would have added an exclamation point to this one. I think he just clanked off the right field fence. But this was a big game for him. And as you said, a big game for a lot of guys in this D-backs lineup. I mean, if you're scoring 11 runs, you're obviously doing a lot of things right offensively. And, once the D-backs fell behind 7-5 and especially 8-5, this Brewers bullpen is just so good. We cited the stat the other day that they had allowed 3 earned runs in their last 59 and a third innings of work entering this series. That's just crazy. And for the Diamondbacks to be able to put up runs against some guys who probably not household names like, Aaron Ashby, Joe Ross, like these are not big names necessarily, but you look at these guys' numbers. I'm quite sure, I'd have to double check. I'm pretty sure that neither Joe Ross nor Aaron Ashby had allowed a single run out of the bullpen this season. Both of those guys spent some time as a starter, but since converting to a reliever, I don't believe either of them had allowed a single run. And obviously the D-backs had their issues with Ross, but they were able to get to Ashby. And then even Koenig, obviously this wasn't his day. And Pat Murphy should have taken him out earlier than he did. I think we can all agree on that. But Koenig had an ERA just over 2 coming into this game. I mean, he's a really good pitcher and had an excellent season as well. So you continue to feel like with this D-backs offense, it's so well-rounded. There's so much depth here that even the best relief pitchers, even the best starting pitchers, the Diamondbacks have a shot against just about anyone. And we saw that again today.
Well, and again, Gino's name not being on there is kind of fitting because as much as we give him the King Snake, this one wasn't all Gino. This one wasn't all anybody. There were so many individual moments. You had Pavin's big base clearing double there that gave the Diamondbacks a 5-0 lead early on. You also had, that what they did in the bottom of the 8th inning, what you're discussing there was so impressive. And there were so many parts of that allowed the Diamondbacks to tie the game up at 8, including, I think that's the inning when Corbin was on, and then
Corbin did it
the
all,
wild
basically.
pitch, he did it all. You know what I mean? And Corbin, again, it's not even something that really shows up in the stat sheet, but it's because of Corbin's speed. They just get an extra run that most baseball teams, some guys have guys like Corbin, but not everybody has guys like Corbin. You're just not getting someone that's getting from first to third like that on a wild pitch and instantly becoming a run for this team. This was a true effort from all of the guys pitching in: Perdomo, Grichuk, Gino. I mean, this was everybody today. And I don't ever want to see Jackson Chourio ever again. So I don't know if I want to face off against this Brewers team in the playoffs. We got 4 more games against this team after the way they came in here and scored this many runs after, of course, the first game going the way it did, where neither team basically scored, hardly anything at all. Of course, the 2 other games are absolute, offensive, displays, I guess you could say, from both teams. But Diamondbacks came out on top in this one, and it's important. They really needed this win.
They really did. Yeah, I know the Mets, I believe, lost today, which is obviously a big development. Buddy Kennedy tied that game with an RBI double in the 8th, and then
the Phillies,
that Buddy Kennedy.
The Phillies fans are loving Buddy Kennedy. By the way, Jesse, I've heard nothing but very good things about Buddy Kennedy, and they're very excited for the stuff he's doing. He's becoming one of those like blue collar heroes for the Phillies, and here he is still helping the Diamondbacks out by beating the Mets.
Yeah, so he came through with a really big game tying hit in the 8th inning of that game, and then in the 9th inning, the Phillies walked it off. I think it was JT Realmuto coming through with that hit. So the Phillies help out the D-backs. We figured that once the Mets got to that difficult part of their schedule, that maybe things would change a little bit for them. And sure enough, you saw the Phillies take 2 out of 3 from the Mets this weekend. Mets now face the Nationals for 3 days. So these are their last several games of the year that are against lesser opponents. But then after that, the rest of the way, it's brutal. It's I think 4 more against the Phillies. They face the Braves. They face the Brewers, I believe, to finish off the season. So yeah, the Mets are in a difficult spot, but obviously they're playing really good baseball still. You can't take them for granted. And then I believe, as we record this right now, the Braves are up 2-1 on the Dodgers. So that's a wraparound series. It's a 4-game set that ends tomorrow. But if the Braves win today, then they'll have already won the series and will be going for a 4-game sweep tomorrow. So the Diamondbacks need to keep winning games, and they obviously have an opportunity to do that next week against the Rockies. This is a pretty golden opportunity for them, frankly, to really try to build up some ground here. So we'll see if they're able to do that.
The Cubs did beat the Rockies, so the Cubs still are kind of in this, and the Padres beat the Giants in their own extra innings game. So
right.
I mean, yes, this was big because the Diamondbacks still have 4 games against the Brewers. You want to have some confidence that you can beat this Brewers team. You don't want to get swept here at home and then go to Milwaukee and try to beat them there, right? And try to turn things around against them there. You also have the potential that you could line up against this Milwaukee Brewers team in the playoffs. So there's a lot of stuff there, not to mention the fact that they finished the season against the Padres and could line up with the Padres as well. So this one, there is a lot about getting to know these opponents. But what the hell, Dodgers? What the hell? Dodgers keep losing. Every time I look up, they're losing to one of the teams we need them to not lose to. One of the teams we need them to beat. We needed them to beat the Cubs. I saw them losing to the Cubs a bunch. We needed to beat the Braves. And like you said, here they are up on the Braves. They are 4-6 in their last 10 games, Jesse. And I don't like that. I don't like that one bit. But I did want to say, if you guys are here right now on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel, we thank you. We love you for joining us for this emergency podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Hit that notifications button, smash that like button, hit that like button. HTL, our guy Marvin Harrison Jr. did the thing today, Jesse, and I think he did it against your fantasy football team.
Unfortunately, he did. Me and Shane are in a pretty heated match right now.
Yeah,
I think you might have
as are me and Espo.
Jesse, you're getting dominated.
People on the streets are saying that who wins between me and Espo has some sort of major impact on the mayoral race, which is just crazy, Jesse.
You're
It's
not
just
actually
crazy.
getting dominated, but you're going to be.
All right. Well, this is things are heating up in the fantasy football league around here. Of course, again, we thank you guys for checking us out. If you're listening on the audio podcasting side, make sure you subscribe on your favorite audio podcasting app and leave us a review. We appreciate those 5-star reviews a bunch, and of course, your feedback as always. But Jesse, this one was wild. This one was crazy. This one was definitely a wee. Let's get that. Did we have that roller coaster? This is oh, look at that drop. That drop is the funnest part of the roller coaster, Jesse. That is amazing.
So we have it. This is showing up pretty small for me. I imagine people are watching on their phone, like maybe can't see it at all. But I see Paven and Randall Grichuk and Geraldo Perdomo, Ketel Marte, Corbin Carroll, and Gino Suarez are all on our little roller
all
coaster.
on the roller coaster.
So,
yeah,
yeah.
good
Well,
stuff.
well done, Shane. Well
That's
done.
5-star work, Shane. That is 5-star work on last minute notice. Well, look at that, man. I mean, let's throw that up again. That deserves more screen time. I don't want to look at my face. I want to look at that.
I mean
this really does show the shifts of this game, and especially their late, the back and forth there, which ultimately led in the 10th inning to the Diamondbacks' big win.
Yeah. I mean, this was a game that in the 4th inning, you felt really good about the Diamondbacks winning, right? Zach Allen maybe wasn't as sharp as I don't know if I can even say as sharp as we're used to seeing him, because I know he's been better his last couple of outings, but the command on the whole has just been pretty inconsistent this season. There were some familiar things that we were seeing from him for sure. But yeah, he was still seemed to be pitching well enough. The pitch count was high, but he still hadn't given up a run through 4 innings. You've got a 5-0 lead on a Pavin Smith base clearing double, which, by the way, Pavin Smith continues to be just unbelievably good for the Diamondbacks offensively. And then, suddenly everything changes. And of course, it had to do with Jackson Chourio again, right? I think it was maybe a 1-2 pitch, a 2-2 pitch that was right on the black. Zach Allen basically dotted the lower inside corner. I think it was a slider, and he doesn't get the call. The home plate umpiring was there were some inconsistencies today. I'll just say that. And then on the very next pitch, Gallen throws goes to a similar spot, and Jackson Chourio hits a 3-run homer, and suddenly you have a baseball game, and things got a whole lot worse in the 6th inning when Kevin Ginkel gave up a 2-run homer to Eric Haas, and then a 2-run double later in the frame with 2 outs to Willy Adames, who had just absolutely obliterated the Diamondbacks on the whole in this series. So then you're staring down a 7-5 deficit. It became 8-5 the next inning. In the 7th, Ryan Thompson gave up a run there. So it's amazing how the Brewers just very quickly managed to turn a 5-0 deficit into an 8-5 lead. And as I said earlier, when the Brewers get up 3 runs in the 7th inning, you kind of feel like the game is just about over. That's sort of the way that their season is gone. And obviously it didn't go that way today.
You gotta tip your cap to Jackson Chourio, and that kid is going to be a problem for us for a very long time in the National League, because holy crap, was he good today in this series, and good in its game in this series, and as advertised. But the Diamondbacks find a way to win, and I don't know, maybe consider not walking anybody to pitch to him ever again. I also am very interested to see home plate umpire Eric Backus's scorecard come tomorrow. We're going to be reviewing that for sure, Eric. Maybe not on the show, but we'll be taking a look and seeing where things maybe went wrong. We'll have a discussion. We'll see where we can improve for the future. But the Diamondbacks definitely have a series here against the Colorado Rockies coming up. Jesse, you're going to be there in Colorado covering it in person. You leave first thing in the morning. So, of course, we'll be bringing you guys a post-game show tomorrow night. Thoughts on this series? I mean, obviously, you don't want to take a team like the Rockies for granted. They've already proven this season, despite the fact that they don't have very many wins, that they can beat any team, and they have done that. Like you've looked up at the scoreboard at times throughout this entire season and seen the Rockies beat and even win series against teams that they probably have no business doing so against. So at this point, you can't have that happen. You got to go out there against a familiar team, and you really got to put it to them in Colorado.
Yeah, there are some interesting narratives, I think, from the D-back side in this series. We're going to see probably Jordan Montgomery pitch on Tuesday. Be really interesting to see what that looks like with him back in a starting role, at least for the time being. Merrill Kelly, we expect, will start on Monday, the first game of that series, and of course, he's coming off leaving his most recent outing with cramping in his right hamstring. I wouldn't expect that to be an issue, but I think in general, we're still sort of curious what Merrill Kelly is going to look like the rest of the season. And if he's able to find a bit of a groove, he's generally pitched pretty well in that ballpark. So that'll be interesting to see what that looks like. The other narrative, which I guess is something we should talk about from this game as well, is that Gabriel Moreno is back, Derek. He was
Yes.
activated today. The
But what
Diamondbacks
did it
placed
cost, Jesse? What did it cost? Because once again, the Arizona Diamondbacks, like the scales of justice, need to have something balance out, bringing one of their players off the IL. And that casualty seems to have been Ryan Nelson, who has now been moved to the 15-day IL. And they are confident that there's a chance that he could be back at the end.
Nelson was already on the 15-day coming into today. Paul Sewald was
Right.
placed on the IL today with the
just haven't talked about it. We haven't done a show, and of course that's what I'm saying is that is some brand new information that Ryan Nelson has been moved due to what was it? It was
right shoulder inflammation. It just popped up during his most recent bullpen is what Torey told us the other day. And the expectation is that he will be able to pitch again this season for the Diamondbacks. Torey said he's very optimistic that Nelson can return on the 15th or 16th day, which would be the 27th would be the first day that he's eligible. The D-backs are off on the 26th. But that's the final series of the year, right? They face the Padres in a very important, what will likely be a very important 3-game series, the 27th to the 29th. So there's a chance you get Nelson back in that series. Maybe he could make one start before the end of the regular season. And then if the D-backs do make the playoffs, it'd probably be pretty important for you to see Nelson start again in the regular season before you plug him straight into a playoff game. So it's going to be, obviously it's a huge loss for the D-backs, right? I mean, Nelson has been so good here over the last couple of months, and Jordan Montgomery, it sounds like is going to step into that spot. So we'll see what that looks like.
This is what the depth gets you, right? This is where you are at least glad that you have Jordan Montgomery as a viable option, even though he has not pitched well this season. He has done a decent job at times, even out of the bullpen, despite that not necessarily being something that he's familiar with or has done really as a starting pitcher in Major League Baseball. So, I mean, we'll see what happens, but at least they do have that available pitcher to come in and potentially help them win ball games. It's not the best option, but maybe this is when Jordan Montgomery becomes the hero of this team. Maybe it's his turn to step up for the Diamondbacks. And like you said, they have lost Paul Sewald, which of course probably does not impact a lot of people, but that's a big loss for this team, even without Paul Sewald being in that closer role, even without Paul Sewald pitching, right? Like what he means to the team, what he means to the clubhouse is huge. And you can't really quantify his loss.
Yeah, and I mean, even just in terms of what he's done on the field, like obviously he hasn't been fantastic lately, and he was moved out of the closer role for a reason. But you still need like low leverage arms, right? You still need guys that you can put into a game that you're maybe down by a few runs and hope that the lead stays there, that the deficit stays there. And Sewald has been pretty decent for the Diamondbacks in that role. I mean, they designated Dylan Floro for assignment today. So really in one day, they've lost 2 of their low leverage relievers. And those guys aren't pitching the most important innings for you. But at the same time, the D-backs are getting kind of thin in that regard, right? They brought in Blake Walston today. Like, is Blake Walston someone that you would want on a potential postseason roster? Is Brandon Hughes someone that you would want on a potential postseason roster?
Well, and you're also losing Jordan Montgomery, right? Out of the bullpen up to the starting rotation, right? Like there's just it's not great. It's not a great time for this to happen, considering how much the Diamondbacks still need to win these games and how close this race is right now. But luckily they win today and they avoid, having things be terrible tonight. We can all sleep well tonight and worry about the future tomorrow. This is the Diamondbacks. I think they said the 11th walk-off victory of the season. So good for them in regards to, no, I'm sorry. It's their ninth walk-off of the season. So, and a big one at a crucial time. So we will be back tomorrow night, of course, with more on our post-game show covering the Arizona Diamondbacks game there against the Colorado Rockies. AZ Cats G, thank you for your super chat. He says the D-backs win on U of A Day with a walk-off just like they did against the Dodgers 2 years ago. I won't say the thing, but I will say the letters BTFD. There you go, AZ Cats G. Thank you for your super chat. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate all of you guys stopping by. Thank you for joining us for this impromptu emergency podcast. We couldn't go this long after this win. We couldn't wait all the way until tomorrow night to talk about this win. We had to talk about it now. Dr. Tony, thank you so much for your super chat. He says, let's not forget that Walston got his first Major League Baseball win, Jesse, Blake Walston. So, I mean, I don't know what this bullpen is going to look like going forward for this team, but right now these guys that they're going to have to lean on some of these young guys that have been given opportunities in the past that went back down, that are coming back up, including Gilbert Diaz and other young arms. So hopefully they can continue to get the job done. We will be here to cover it, so make sure you join us for that. In the meantime, follow us on Twitter. I'm at cap_caveman with a K. Jesse, this absolute maniac about baseball next to me, is at Jesse and Friedman. Of course, the man on the 1 and 2s tonight is the man that never stops. It's the one and only Shane Deef. You can follow him at that on Twitter. Of course, our show is at PHNX_D-backs, but all roads do lead to at PHNX_sports on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We appreciate your time on this Sunday evening. We thank you again for stopping by. We will see you tomorrow night. In the meantime, behave yourselves. Have a wonderful evening. And remember, kids, baseball is fun, but it is so much more fun when you get a walk-off victory in 11 innings over the Brewers.
We all silly like the mayor.